Hey, I'm a real idiot. I'm a real dumb, stupid guy. I talked for probably about like 20 minutes about BT15 in retrospect before I realized I'm not recording. So we're gonna run back. We'll go to BT15 retrospect by me, Marshmallow Ruffian. Kind of going over why I'm going into BT15 as a retrospect, even though BT15 isn't over yet. We're in the last month that BT15 is the most concurrent set. BT16 is coming up, as well as a lot of tournaments that I play in online are starting to get ready to use proxies. I think this week actually is the first proxy tournament for BT16 and some of the tournaments that I play in. So people are already looking forward to what's coming up. We've got a little bit less than like a month left before BT16 is completely out. And there's no more, I don't think there's any more regionals. I'm pretty sure there's no more regionals for BT15. There's a couple more Ultimate Cups that I think I will be participating in. But for BT16, I think people are kind of looking forward to it. So I kind of want to talk about BT15, especially because it was such a unique set compared to ones that we've had in the past. So yeah, let's go over that. Let's start off with the first tournament. I think this one is super important to talk about because this is the only tournament that we had for NA at least. There was, I think, another one. Is it LATAM? It may have been LATAM. I'm not sure. So don't get mad at me if I'm incorrect. I'll go ahead and start pulling that up over on the side. The whole like Apocalypse Anubis fear that was going on, that I think everyone really expected to be the best decks and just kind of take the tournament. And I know that while a lot of people were really hesitant at first to have the Apocalypse here, just purely because of the fact that, you know, it was such an impressive deck in the OCG. I think most people were, well, sad the ban list happened, happy that Apocalypse wasn't going to be seeing a lot of success post this tournament. And at the tournament, I think it was predetermined. Apocalypse and Anubis were, in fact, I think the two most represented decks, followed by like Levia, Red Hybrid, Nume, Luga, things like that. And then something kind of unexpected happened. I think Nume took both slots in the finals. So it was a Nume mirror match as the final two decks. And that was a surprise for a lot of people. However, it didn't really come as too big of a surprise for me. We'll get over that in a second. I just want to talk a little bit about, I think that the decks that saw a lot of success, I think Apocalypse, while was very powerful, didn't see as much success as people thought. It took a lot of slots for the top cut. It just, with the amount of representation it had, I think people were expecting it to win overall as well. So seeing the fact that this finals didn't even have a Apocalypse player in it was kind of made people question Apocalypse's dominance. And I will say right here, right now, I think that Apocalypse was still in. It would still be one of, if not the best deck in the format, but I don't think it would be. I think there are decks out there currently right now that can consistently beat it. So I don't think it would be the top dog like it was in the OCG. However, I am still super glad that's banned. I think the gameplay loop of it, as well as the gameplay loop of Anubis, were very, very unfun. So seeing that they're gone early was something that I was actually quite happy with. But yeah, let's talk about kind of what happened. What went down? Well, so the reason I wasn't too surprised was that Nume took the one of the Japan championships. I'm not sure if it was their nation championship or just a regional or something. I can't remember specifically what it was, but it led me to kind of recognize like, oh, this deck is actually exceptionally powerful. And so testing it a lot prior to BT15 coming out, I kind of realized that we were at full power except for the Nume and the Valk. And so I started kind of running a tear on a lot of online tournaments, taking first place pretty consistently for about like 2 or 3 weeks straight. About like 2 or 3 tournaments online every week. I was dominating in a lot of ways, and I felt very confident with the deck, especially because a lot of people didn't really have it on their radar for a little bit. However, you know, as that kind of shifts, I think a lot of people start recognizing that Nume is, again, almost at full power. We're just missing the Uko that searches and the Valk that is like the mini ruin mode. Both of those are exceptionally strong, but still we have the base power of the deck, which is their stickiness, the ability to kind of float consistently, their speed, their aggression, and their colors that let them go into super powerful 7s, super powerful 6s, have a very strong like bottom end that lets you draw consistently. It felt nigh unbeatable in a lot of ways for me. So I made a like 20-30 minute video prior to the regional, stating that I think that Numemon is the best deck in the current format, and I think that it will win. I think that it will win. And then it did. And I think the things that kind of lead to that are one, it's consistency, it's ability to kind of speed and rush down your opponent, or kind of slow down a little bit against the more aggressive decks to kind of build up like an impenetrable fortress, leads to it being very versatile. That plus it has an exceptionally strong matchup both into Apocalypse and into Anubis, due to like just not just like strong targeted floodgates with the Curry and the Chew, both like shutting down the Anubis completely and then stopping the Apocalypse from playing itself out, but also they're exceptionally hard to remove, as well as their speed allowing you to chip down those very like kind of like slower combo decks like Apocalypse, and kind of going underneath them a lot of the time. And not only could you go underneath them, you could also go through them in a lot of ways that other decks can't. With the fact that there are DP reduction in Nume lasts until the end of their turn, even a Craniumon won't protect you, because of the fact that the way that protection works in this game, if you're unaffected by your opponent's Digimon effects, and I apply DP reduction to you, that DP reduction is still on you, it just doesn't actually work. However, if your protection only lasts until the end of my turn, when it comes to your turn, you're no longer protected from my DP reduction effects, and they begin to immediately swarm you. So if you can hit that 15k DP threshold, which is super manageable in this deck, both with the RB1 Nume and the Manzai X coming into play, you can consistently hit like, I think it's just off of the RB1 and the Manzai X by itself, no other bodies besides it, you can get to a 7k deletion checkpoint. So any amount further than that is super feasible, as long as you have some kind of board set up, and because of how little that Apocalypse kind of interacts and how well you can slow them down using Chikuri, you can consistently set up a pretty wide board, which will then get through protection. So that's why I think that Nume saw a lot of success. However, I do know for a fact that people talked about Nume in this scenario, saying how good of a matchup it had against Anubis and how good of a matchup it had against Apocalypse. I think that people assumed it would kind of fall off when Shalvaya became the top deck of the format, which is what I think everyone assumed, including me. I assumed it would be one of the best decks post ban list. Speaking of the ban list as a whole, I'm gonna kind of talk about what decks were kind of hit. So of course, Apocalypse hit to 1, Anubis hit to 1, the Melga engine, both X's being hit to 1, hitting Melga as well as Apocalypse and Anubi. Speaking of Melga, not seeing much success in the tournament, even unhit, which is super sad as a Melga enjoyer personally, but I understand that the deck's single stack kind of prime that we used to do back in the day isn't really what wins games anymore. But also hitting Buka, hitting the Mirage decks, kind of putting them even further behind. Obviously, each one of them devastating in their own way. Mirage still very playable, however, but Apocalypse, Anubis, and especially Melga being kind of hit to unplayability for a while, leaving them kind of devastated. And due to this, leaving the format pretty open. I think most people kind of assumed what the best decks would be, especially after the first tournament, but as we kind of go further, you'll find that it wasn't necessarily the case. So the list that kind of I think people assumed was like it'd be like Levia, Nume, Yellow Vaccine, and Luga as like the best decks in the people's eyes, and mine included. However, with the format being dominated by graveyard-centric decks like Nume, like Levia, and like Luga, as well as decks that want to play by effect like Levia, like Nume, and like Luga, being able to stop or have some kind of graveyard hate, as well as being able to stop or have some kind of effect hate, led to a huge amount of tech being played in all of these decks, from Pillows and like Nume to like Crimson Blaze in Luga to like Uber in Luga, or like Merciful Mode being played in Nume and like Yellow Vaccine. Seeing a lot of success in just trying to shut down Levia. As well as like some unexpected decks that I don't think a lot of people had really in their sights coming into this like brand new format. some that we didn't see have any success in the OCG. But with the banning of the Apocalypse, I think it was like a huge gatekeeper for a lot of styles of decks. And not only that, but as well as the homogeneity of a lot of the top decks and the kind of play styles of what they at least want to do. Not necessarily in the way that they kind of play out, but in the type of effects that you're trying to get off. You saw a lot of competitors kind of try and take a top spot, and they do succeed in some occasions, such as Deva and Gallant. Deva's having a unaffected boss monster, leaving them completely immune to a lot of things. Super powerful ace cards that allow you to kind of stop OTKs from happening if they can't remove your contingency of level 5s, as well as a board wipe using a DP minus that sticks for the turn, stopping decks like Nume from playing out if you make the DP reduction high enough. Essentially stopping them in their spot. Speaking of decks that kind of do a lot of harm to Numemon, Gallant, if it's able to kind of set up effectively, Nume has a hard time, just due to the fact that Gallant really wants your opponent to have a lot of small bodies, because it will consistently try and delete all of them over and over and over again. And so even though Nume will be playing itself out over and over, at some point, I think Gallant does just win in the longer frame, leaving Nume the only option, kind of just going underneath them and just chipping them out. And then the new stuff that was actually introduced in a way that I think it wasn't in Japan and the OCG, the Double Typhoon structure deck, providing insane supports between the new blue-black Magnamon that trashes sources underneath and bounces back cards without sources, as well as Digivolves from security, indeed Digivolves from security as well. Led people to tinkering in not just Armor Rush, but also into just a BT15 Magnamon at home, in a way, using the old Magna X and kind of creating like a stun play style, using a lot of the super strong promo cards from the new Vmon and the new Davis, and not seeing a lot of success in the new rapid support as well, being quite literally insane, allowing Yellow Vaccine, giving them a whole new toolbox of cards to play with because of their armors being Vaccine. The new Mega Gargo Ace being, I think, one of the most powerful cards we've had printed, period. Being super strong, and having that not just played in Rapids, but just in any green or black deck that can actually make use of it. And those becoming meta contenders was, I think, a surprise for a lot of people. With the end score, I mean, Levia has kind of fallen off a bit to the wayside, whether it's due to its kind of difficulty piloting. It's a bit more bricky than I think of a lot of other decks. And even though it has supposedly a good matchup against Nume, I think consistently whenever I've seen it played, Nume never really feels like it's ever out of the game against Leviamon. It always feels like it's kind of there, unless Leviamon is like completely set up in a way. And then Levia just has a hard time against decks that really just try to kill it very quickly, like Red Hybrid, or even the unaffected boss monsters of the Devas. I think it's just been seeing a lot of hard times. I think a successful and like competent pilot would be able to take it to not just a top spot, but also a winning spot. However, I think the fact that it really hasn't won anything. I think there's been like 3 or 4 that it's won, maybe. Let me double check for us real quick the amount of Leviamons that have actually consistently gotten like tops at regionals. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tops since BT16 has kind of dropped, or BT15 has kind of dropped. That doesn't feel great. And spoiler, none of them are first place tops at regionals, not a single one. And there's no tops for Ultimate Cups, at least in this list that I'm currently looking at. There may be some that I don't know, just to clarify. But I think it's a huge surprise for a lot of people, who I think almost everyone assumed Levia would be the best deck going into the format. And then following that, Nume has seen insane amounts of success. Again, not too big of a surprise for me, but I think, again, another surprise for a lot of people. Numemon has seen exceptional success, winning so many tournaments in first place, topping fairly consistently, and having so many different variants from now. Not just the black variant, but like the more aggressive black variant, using Cool Boys and the Agu X's to search and gain some consistency. The ones with exceptional top ends, using Quartz, using Levi, using Quantum, using Venus, using a Zulong Ace. You could really run anything in this deck, and it can see a lot of success. And then breaking away from the black base, we have the purple base, which plays Omni's War and things like that to kind of pitch for value with some Tamer hate. Double Chimera I've seen in some list, just for the huge amount of aggression that the purple base really kind of lends itself to with the amount of draw. I think it's been, I think, definitely the best contender for best deck of the format so far. Red Hybrid and Devas as well have seen huge amounts of success against the Nume lists, consistently beating them. And while they're not like topping or winning tournaments as much as Nume is, I think they've been still super strong. And then there's Lugamon and Yellowvax, which have been kind of gatekeepers in the same way that Apocalypse has been. Whereas like Luga and Yellowvax are exceptionally strong, and while they're not topping as much as other decks on the list here, they're still exceptionally competent. And whenever I personally as a new player go against an exceptionally competent like Yellowvax or a Luga player, it always feels really scary because I know that they know what I'm trying to do. And because of how many options they have available to them, it's hard for me to actually know what I need to be playing around and how to kind of play around it. And because they can kind of play from nothing and how strong their tamers are in gaining that memory, I feel like a lot of decks that kind of can't deal with that kind of OTK aggression or that kind of control have a hard time making their way into the format, even if they would see some success, similar to like Gallant having a hard time here against anything besides Nume. So there's that. Going into BT16 though, I think that Armor, Rapid, and Nume will see a lot more success going forward, as well as like obviously Yellow Vaccine falling into like the Armor and Rapid category a lot more. Whereas I think that Luga, Deva, and Levia will kind of fall a bit more to the wayside as the newer cards come out, them getting less support, and just newer decks coming out that kind of either directly deal with them or at least cause them issues on a axis that I don't think they're necessarily prepared for. Will lead to people playing them less often. Some fun decks that I've actually seen not only top but also win either like locals or like more concurrent tournaments are like as follows. Like Dark Master Controller Omnizu, I think the engine there has actually been surprisingly strong. The amount of powerful aces in the game are here, and in this deck is just getting stronger and stronger as each set goes. I think it won a first place either locals or tournament recently in Japan again, using some of the powerful new ace cards there. It's just been super surprising and super fun to play personally. If you miss a Mega Zoo playstyle, I would definitely try picking it up. Gallant, I think the fact that Gallant was able to win a tournament is so good. So good. All us Gallant players out there, rise up. And while I think the deck is still poor currently, and it will kind of fall even further out of meta going forward, at least for a little bit longer. I think it's still fun to see that it was able to see some success. And then the new control strategies using these new powerful level 6s and level 7s, Quantum Mind Control and Shine Control, both kind of just being, I think, prevalent forces in like the rogue metas that I've seen in some of these online tournaments. People trying to play like the old like BT, I think it's like the BT2 Yellow Rise that plays out a tamer for free, and just constantly trying to play out as many of those tamers as possible to gain as much memory to then rush straight into Shine Ruin modes and just control your opponent out of the game from there. And similar going to Quants, using like some insane deck lists like Lunamons and fucking just wild shit that I've seen to cheat out memory and get into Quants as quickly as possible, and then you just control the top of your opponent's deck while being ideally immune. And then 4 Great Dragons, which I was surprised to see that they got a top at all recently. But it was still super cool to see the list as a whole. Let me just go ahead and open it up real quick, just because I think it's super interesting to see them playing a lot of like the yellow vaccine cards, obviously, as like their lower end, and then playing like a pretty comprehensive package of I think it's just 3. Yeah, it's like 2. It's 4 Goldra, 1 of the new one, and then some of the BT14, and then some of the Magna and Azulong aces to just see some success, which has been super cool. And as we kind of end the slide here, I'm curious, what do you guys think about the upcoming BT16 set? Is everyone as excited for it as I am? What are the plans kind of going forward? I'm really excited to see the Magna X in full power. I'm excited for the Valkase as a Numemon player. I've been testing and labbing Numemon since before the set came out, and I will continue to test and lab Numemon as more and more sets come out. I think it's still one of the best decks in the format, and will continue to be one of, if not, you know what, fuck it, I'll say it is the best deck in the format. Alright, it is. I love it. Ooh, I eat that shit up. I love Numemon. God, I love Numemon. Unfortunately, I don't have any tournament tops to prove that my opinion is valid or accurate, so by all means, if I'm fucking stupid, say so in the comments. Thank you guys so much. Hugs and kisses, and I wish you all the best.